Bridget Strand and Die-Hardman are two of the most important characters in Death Stranding. I wanted to look deeper into their motivations and the American history and political ideology that inspired them. Before she dies at the beginning of the game, Bridget is the president of America with one goal: to stop the extinction of humanity. Die-Hardman is a former soldier, her loyal right hand, and director of bridges. Together they play a major role in setting in motion the events of the game. We don't really see much of Bridget, and Die-Hardman is shrouded in mystery until the end of the game. But in order to understand him, you have to understand Bridget and Amelie. Bridget Strand was diagnosed with uterine cancer in her 20s. During a medical operation, her soul split from her body, stranded on the beach, a fifth-dimensional plane between life and death. Although they have two names, it's important to understand that they're the same person. They don't meet face to face and have conversations like how Amelie talks to Die-Hardman or Sam throughout the game. For reasons unknown, or perhaps destiny, Bridget Strand is an extinction entity. She's meant to bring about the end of humanity. Bridget/Amelie figures out that the beach stores biological archives, all the way back to the beginning of Earth. Now, because Bridget is connected to this beach and she's an extinction entity, she receives premonitions of the future and she can see the destruction happening. The same nightmares that Amelie tells you about at the end of the game. The simplest way to imagine this would be, think of it like how when his heart stops and he travels the beach. When Bridget goes to sleep, she wakes up on the beach as Amelie and begins searching for more answers, more knowledge. Motivated by what she knows is coming in the future, she begins to further her political career. Eventually, she founds bridges and she starts the BB experiments. A void out in Manhattan kills the president, and she is now the new president. Because Amelie and Bridget seem to act independently of each other in some ways, even working against each other's plans, it's tough to say whether Amelie orchestrated the void out in Manhattan. It's very possible that all of this was part of her plan, but you really don't know how ruthless Bridget is until the revelation at the end of the game. And even though she didn't ask to be an extinction entity, and there's reasons you should feel bad for her, she caused a lot of death and destruction. In the chiral network she was building to save everyone, the foundation was women and children. She used her abilities as a politician to convince everyone around her that this was for the greater good. Bridget's other half, Amelie, is like the personification of manifest destiny. She believes that she has to expand this network, and she will use and manipulate anybody she can. But the worst manipulation and the worst betrayal was what she did to Cliff's family and Die-Hardman.
Remember this. It's the same gun. And now I'm using it to make things right. You were supposed to make the world whole, not fuck it all up.
The BB experiments continued after the Stranding, even though the official line was that they'd been shut down. That's how we came to realize that BBs weren't just a means with which we could see BTs. They have the power to connect us to the other side. Power like that could help us make America whole again, surely. That was our thinking at the time, anyway. Not all BBs were created equal, though. One in particular had potential that was off the charts. It was chosen to serve as the first sacrifice. But I didn't have the stomach to see it through. I couldn't do it. Not to his kid. I couldn't forsake that personal connection to save the world, I guess. So, I tried to arrange a rescue. I betrayed my president, betrayed my country, and because of me, both Cliff and his BB ended up dead.
No.
It must have weighed on Bridget, too. How could it not? Why else would she have taken in that little BB who died and came back to life as her own son? Another lie to comfort and console us. But there's no pretending it didn't happen. And now, you know why I've devoted my life to the UCA. It's the only way I can begin to atone for what I've done.
There is no atonement. Not for us.
Die-Hardman and his captain Clifford Unger were part of a special forces unit that did wet work for the president in unnamed future wars before the Death Stranding. There isn't much information about this time, but we can assume he was fighting to save a fractured America during what was the beginning of society's collapse. As a soldier working directly under the president to help keep America safe, he came to idolize Bridget and love her like a mentor and a mother figure. But he also loved and respected his captain, the one who made sure he made it back from every mission. See, his real name is actually John Blake McClane, same as Bruce Willis in Die Hard. And just like Bruce Willis, his entire Die-Hardman persona is an act. His arc is very reminiscent of Naked Snake in the sense that he's forced to make a choice between his duty as a soldier and his personal relationship with someone that has now become an enemy of that system. But unlike Snake, the choice is made for him when Bridget grabs the gun and makes him shoot. This is the crossroads that led to the death of John and the birth of Die-Hardman. He lost a major part of his humanity that day, and with Bridget's help, convinced himself that he had to continue her work. Although he was burdened with guilt, his sense of duty kept him going on the path chosen for him. It was the only one left, the only way to make things right. He couldn't let it all be for nothing. Bridget rewarded his reluctant loyalty by reshaping who he was. She fabricated a cover-up story that framed John as a traitor, then gave him the name Die-Hardman and the mask that she wore during the experiments. Die-Hardman became the director of Bridges and went from soldier to bureaucrat. When playing the game and rebuilding the network, you'll notice Die-Hardman talks a lot about Reconstructionism. This was a real era in history that happened after the Civil War when America was trying to come back together. And a lot of his design and arc seems to be pulled directly from this era. It was a major point in history and the first time Black Americans were able to hold office. And a lot of these positions were given to Black soldiers who fought in the Civil War. Interestingly, Die-Hardman's suit is very similar to the suits they wore in that era. While I was writing this video, I was thinking about his story and how loyal he is, and I said to myself, jokingly, Die-Hardman's a bit of an Uncle Tom. If you're not familiar with this phrase, Uncle Tom as I knew it before researching this video is an insult used to describe a Black person who idolizes or is submissive to white people. What I didn't know is that Uncle Tom is actually a character from a popular anti-slavery book called Uncle Tom's Cabin, written by white abolitionist Harriet Beecher Stowe and published in 1852, right before the Reconstruction era. At the time, the only book outselling Uncle Tom's Cabin was the Bible. It was that popular. But it turns out the Uncle Tom in the book was the exact opposite of what the phrase meant. In the book, Uncle Tom is a kind, deeply religious, enslaved man with unwavering moral integrity, a character that refused to betray other slaves even when he was threatened with death. The original book played a major role in starting conversations that inspired the goals of Reconstruction, but Uncle Tom's image was twisted and changed over time. See, Uncle Tom's Cabin was adapted to stage shows not authorized by Harriet Beecher Stowe, and these plays were produced by white theater companies, and they used white actors in blackface to portray him, turning his character into a caricature and undermining the original message. Before John becomes Die-Hardman, he's like the original Uncle Tom in the novel, kind, loyal, devout to his cause, and while he still has these same qualities as Die-Hardman, his image as John has been destroyed in the records, to the point where he has to hide his face behind a mask. I think that the robotic, skull-like Luden's mask that Bridget and Die-Hardman wear represents suppressing your guilt and your humanity. Bridget in this scenario is both the author of his story and the one who rewrites who he is. He becomes chained to the UCA, pulled even closer to the president, and goes along with her work and manipulation to justify his actions instead of facing the guilt. He conforms to the system. There's a condition within Death Stranding called drone syndrome. It's described as a condition where individuals develop a deep psychological dependence on the act of delivering goods. And when I started to look into this era and some of the psychology within it, I found something called Uncle Tom syndrome, which is a theory in multicultural psychology. It refers to a coping skill in which individuals use passivity and submissiveness when confronted with a threat, leading to subservient behavior and appeasement while concealing their true thoughts and feelings. And I'm not saying that race plays any part within the concept of the game, but within the theme of oppression that is throughout this game, I think that this was the inspiration for part of Die-Hardman's choices and attitude. Even the clothing in Death Stranding and the accessories people wear will tell you a lot about their character. Sam wears a Native American dream catcher, symbolizing his desire to remain free. Amelie wears a kipu, an Andean record-keeping device, symbolizing her connection to the beach that contains records of all life and her ability to control the flow of information. Die-Hardman wears 2 strands around his neck. They aren't fashioned like the ropes porters use to bind things. What he wears resembles loose chains, not a symbol of connection, but a symbol of control and the burden he carries. Notice how Bridget is always dressed in white with a nice, regal-looking ascot, and Die-Hardman is dressed in black and gray. He's her shadow, the one who shields her from the dirty work. Their relationship reminds me of the phrase, stand for something or fall for anything. Although Die-Hardman still has the same good qualities he had when he was just John, he's willing to bend his morality to follow the leadership of someone else. Even when he confesses to Sam that he was the one that killed his father, he honestly says, I did it for her. The truth is, he did it because he didn't know who he was without her. His connection and love for Bridget allowed him to compromise his character at the most crucial moment in his life. Only after his conversation with Sam at the end of the game does he realize he doesn't need to be Die-Hardman. He needs to become his own person. Sam doesn't desire accolades. He doesn't care about the UCA or the country, even after the events of the game. He doesn't have any ideology. He's driven by empathy in the people that helped him find himself again. Die-Hardman's arc is only halfway done. He's got to be in part 2. I think we'll see him with no mask, no alias, the author of his own book, the creator of his own image. Maybe he'll go the big boss route and create his own outer heaven. I'm very sympathetic to Die-Hardman over Bridget because I just don't like Bridget. When Die-Hardman pulls up to Amelie's beach with that same gun, it shows a lot of his character and his human side. He says, I'm here to make things right. I believed in you. You were supposed to make America whole again. And then you get the confession to Sam about what he did. Die-Hardman has redeemed himself to me by the end.
I'm gonna stop what she started by stopping her. One last confession. I'm just a man. No powers, nothing special. Don't have dooms, I can't repatriate like Sam either. Don't know the first thing about dying, I had never tried it. Yeah. I've been to hell. Every single battlefield was hell. But no matter how terrible it got, I never died. Because all I ever did was run from death.
Bridget, I haven't seen enough about her, but I did not like her. And that could just be because Die-Hardman's confession at the end of the game is just so genuine and powerful, and you never really see the human side to Bridget. She doesn't really get that chance to redeem herself. Die-Hardman and Bridget are 2 of Kojima's most underappreciated characters, each representing the best and worst of American ideology. Death Stranding is a game about people rewritten by history. It's about connection and how sometimes those deep connections can control you and compromise your character, even tarnish your soul. But what do y'all think? Do y'all think I'm spouting nonsense? Did I miss something about these characters? Let me know in the comments your thoughts. And thank you to everyone who tuned in. I really appreciate it. And if you learned something or you enjoyed the video, leave a like, maybe even subscribe. If you don't, I'll just find a way to trap you on Amelie's beach for an eternity, and I won't feel bad about it.